All right, what's good, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Watch the Commanders, the Aftermath. I'm with my co-host Merle. Sorry we didn't have a show last week, but it's the holidays, and everybody's taking their time to do the things that we do. Um, but as you know, how we do about this time, we start in with a little talk, and then we'll head into the intro.
Well,
After the game, it's the aftermath. Win or lose, we still wave our commander's flag. Riding with wit, under center, making the pass. Jahan Dotson, young rookie, making a splash. The burgundy and gold, that's what we about. Jonathan Allen knocking QBs to the ground. We die hard and nobody can shut us down. Cause this is the greatest show in town. Let's go! Go, 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 go.
All right, we back. All right, so we all know that the Commanders um, played. 2 weeks ago we lost the game to the what it was to the Giants before we played before the Cowboys.
yeah,
Yeah, we lost the game to the Giants. I was so far behind. So man, so you know how it is. But Thursday we came on a short week, which we got embarrassed by the Giants, 31-19. Then knowing that eventually we had to play the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, which that was a national disaster all in itself. So the Washington Commanders got beat 45-10. Um, the Cowboys had their way with us. Defense looked really, really bad. So Merle, from your from your perspective of the game, just tell me overall, starting with the defense. We'll tackle the offense in a little bit.
do we even have a defense? It's, you know, Jack Del Rio got fired on Friday, but really, I had kind of gotten to the point with this team that I'm not even sure it was Jack Del Rio's fault. I'm really starting to think that there are just a large number of players on our team and on defense that do not deserve a starting job in the National Football League on this team or any team. And I think what it comes down to is that in order to play the game of football or to play the game of baseball or to play the game of sales, you have to have a combination of talent, intelligence, and drive. And if you don't have all three, you're not going to be successful in what you do. I don't care if you're the most talented person athletically that we've ever seen. If you don't have a head for the game, you don't have the drive, and if you're not willing to continue to learn and to play within the constructs of the system, I mean, I think sometimes we maybe put a little bit too much on the coaching staff at this level. At the end of the day, the team, the players just aren't playing the game of football as well as they need to play in order to be a winning football team.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that because I took something from what me and you have talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and everything like that. Um, it is about building a franchise, from not just building just for playoff purposes, but you got to build it. Um, we got to build it for Super Bowl purposes,
Yeah.
because you're gonna get to the playoffs. That's you generally gonna get to the playoff. But what is the next step after that? Is to win championships. If you look at the teams that I look at right now, that's building. Look at what Denver was. Denver was 1-5 in the beginning of the season. Look, Sean Payton is going to have them in the right direction starting next year. This is first year. But I mean, but look what it was. can you imagine if Sean Payton had this team, how competitive this team would be?
I
How
don't think they'd be a stitch more competitive than they are right now.
I mean,
I
but
really don't. I think we're to the point, Martin, that the players need to be responsible for the play on the field, and they aren't executing.
but that's goes to my point I'm trying to make is that I think you have to have a certain kind of coach that know how to coach talent. And I just think these guys quit on Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio. I think they over it, they exhausted, and we have 4 years of this. You know, 2019, 2020, this team was statistically up there in defense. They started dropping off, and you see it. It got worse last year, and it's bad this year. And I just think that um, when you build teams for Super Bowl, look at the 49ers, they keep adding. Look at the Eagles keep adding. Dallas is right there, even though they only won 4 playoff games since 2020, along with us only winning one. But they get there. They get to the playoff. They still just got to get over that hump. You look at a Kansas City, look at Buffalo, even though they got their struggles. Teams are built a certain way. We just not built that way. And I just don't think that, I mean, what me and you was talking about behind the scenes earlier this afternoon about how Josh Harris he just got this team right at the end of the draft, going into
Really going into training camp.
Training camp. That's what I'm about to say. Training camp.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
The draft had already happened.
Exactly. Everything. So he didn't have a chance to start it from the beginning. Where I think if he had a chance to get it around January, February, Ron Rivera don't want to be here. We'd have had everything reconstructed. Then we could have say, okay, we could grade this team. But knowing that Ron Rivera was coming back, we already knew this team was not going to go nowhere. Even though we all got excited, I was excited doing training camp because, and thinking, well, Eric Bieniemy is here. But all of this stuff is the only bright spot is that Sam Howell. He, because through all of this chaos and mess, it's like he's showing that, hey, I belong, and I go back to our conversations again. And a lot of things that me you talk about, it helps me dialect a little bit more and everything, because we both had different opinions. We agree and disagree to stuff, but some things that I could go back and say, dang, I see what Merle talk about. So it helps me when I'm doing some of my content on the side. I could bring a whole total different perspective. So, and I think Sam Howell will be fine under another coordinator. Now, if Eric Bieniemy stays, hey, that's great. That's good. But at this point in time, there is nobody safe on this team.
Yeah, no. Well, I think to any degree that anybody is, I think Sam Howell is safe on this team.
Yeah.
I think what you have to realize is when you look at his actual performance on the field, let's forget about all the prognosticators. Let's forget about what ESPN has been saying or 106.7 WJFK in DC has been saying. Mm-hmm. Sam Howell is doing things in his first year as a starter, in his only second year in the league, that very, very few quarterbacks have done. And I think what's happened in football and the way we cover football as the media, is that there's been more of a focus on the things a quarterback does other than throw the football. Mm-hmm. How can a quarterback run around? How can a quarterback generate other offense in other forms? And in a way, that one thing of just being a quarterback and going through your progressions and seeing the field and making the throws is something that's devalued. And it's something that many people have said since week one, oh, he makes all the throws. Well, nobody just makes all the throws.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you seen Herbert or have you seen Joe Burrow before he got hurt just sail a ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sam Howell is throwing darts out there. He's throwing darts out there that Terry McLaurin, for being, I think at the time, was like one of the highest paid wide receivers in football.
Mm-hmm.
We had to pay him that money to keep him. And, you know, I'm going to call a spade a spade. For as good a guy as he is, for as, you know, a great of a presence he is and a great teammate, he is not putting up the numbers that a wide receiver one should be putting up. He's giving you wide receiver 2 numbers. But there's another thing, and I was talking to a friend of mine that's also done some coaching around here, that, you know, both of us have been able to, you know, look at Sam, you know, going back to his days at North Carolina, and even going back here in North Carolina at Sun Valley High,
Mm-hmm.
where he's been running pro style offenses going back to high school. And, you know, joke my buddy was telling me, he goes, you know, I'm watching Sam at Carolina, and I'm finding out people are still on the roster by the fact that Sam found them open on the field. His first 6 completions on Thursday went to 5 different receivers. And that's against Dallas's defense. You know what Sam Howell did? He threw for 300 yards against the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's done that this season in Dallas.
No.
Dallas may be the best team in football right now. And if they're not, they're in the conversation.
Yeah, I think.
You know, forget about what we think of Dallas here.
I mean, I won't say they're the best. I think they still got a lot to prove. They got to beat the good teams, which they haven't really did that. Yeah. Until I see them do that, then I say, okay, well, I mean, because Philly and San Francisco, they do it. Kansas City do it. So I can't put Dallas over them. But I want to rewind back to the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And just I think for the most part, Sam did all he could. I think to some of the stint, we got to look at the offensive line. It's not good. It doesn't do well against the run. It doesn't do well against the pass. It's a miracle that we are able to do what we can do in the passing game. I think a great offensive line will allow it would allow Eric Bieniemy to explore the playbook a little bit more to get more of these guys involved.
Imagine for a minute if Sam Howell actually had 3.5 to 4 seconds to throw the football.
Exactly. And I think that's where you could see Terry be more assertive. You can see Jahan, you can see Diami, Curtis Samuel. I think them guys will have better numbers. I just think our offensive line is so bad and Sam gets sacked so much. It doesn't allow time.
Well, the sacks have been coming down.
Yeah.
Watching. I mean, so here's the thing, and here's another thing about Sam Howell is early in the season, and I mean, people forget his first 2-3 games was complete deer in the headlights. Welcome to the NFL, and it culminated in that game against Buffalo. You know, of his 13 interceptions, 7 of them are in 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Or six of them, sorry. Yeah, 6 of them are in 2 games. The other 7 are spread out against the rest. He's fixing his flaws in real time. But more importantly, he threw for 300 yards against Dallas on Thursday without the benefit of an offensive line, going against one of the better defensive lines in football. So what happens when Sam Howell can actually stay in the pocket and he doesn't have to roll right all the time?
Exactly. And
what happens when you can call the counter tray on 3rd and 1? You know, you can't call straight ahead running plays right now on 3rd and 1. People want to know why they put Sam in the shotgun on those plays, and we ended up. It's because we don't have an offensive line that's going to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I think that for Sam to, I don't know what Eric B. Enemy future is. I mean, I don't know what Josh Harrison thinking is, and I just think that, to me personally, I think they most likely they could overhaul the whole staff. But it brings me to this: knowing that we traded to our two defensive ends to get draft capital. As we sit currently right now, because we was 7th last week and we moved up to 6th on Thanksgiving, and now with the other teams losing or the Giants winning, Tennessee winning, it bumps us to 5th. Now, with Chicago playing tonight, even if Chicago wins tonight, it doesn't matter where we at. It matters the last 5 games. If Chicago was to win 1 or 2 more games, then that could move us into 4th or 3rd. Depends how everything falls. So we will have no matter what it looks like, we will have a top 5 draft pick. Now, with that being said, going into next year, whoever the coach is going to be, whoever the GM is going to be, me and you talked about this a lot about them firing Ron Rivera early, firing him late. Now we're looking at all of these guys. I look at Frank Wright, everybody. First, it started off with Buffalo firing Ken Dorsey. Then you looked around. We know Frank Wright was going to get fired sometime soon, but we didn't know when. Now almost his whole staff, the quarterback coach, the running back coach, got fired today also. Then
Frank Wright wasn't there for 1 week.
11 games.
All right, I got a Frank Reich story. All right. So I went to RIT. I went to the Rochester Institute of Technology. All right. So this goes back to I want to say 1993. I might have the year wrong. It was mighty cold that winter in Rochester, New York. That late December, early January. And normally what would happen in those really cold winters, Danny Wegman, who was the owner of Wegmans, would buy up all the unused tickets at Rich Stadium in Buffalo in order to get all the in order to make sure it wouldn't be a sellout and then it wouldn't be blacked out. Well, for several reasons, Danny Wegman decided not to do it this time. This is a playoff game against the Houston Oilers. And, we need to, support or the local people need to support their Buffalo Bills, and they need to get out to the stadium. So the game got blacked out and we had to go. And it was bone cold. It was like 40 below with the wind chill. And our buddy that was driving did not want to leave. And we're just cold and miserable and And then they bring Frank Reich in the 3rd quarter, and the rest is history. I'm not remembering the scores at that point, but yeah, I was there at the comeback game, and it was Frank Reich, who also did something similar at the University of Maryland. I was not at that game, but Frank was a great quarterback. He's not that good of a coach.
Nah, he's not.
And yeah, well, he's
give
been
me,
what
give
the
me.
only guy he fired from two teams, two NFL teams in the same season, in season. I lost you. Can you hear me, Martin? I think we have lost Martin, but yes, we have. Unfortunately, folks, Frank Reich is no longer at the helm in Charlotte. Lord knows what's going to happen there. But let's face it, folks, this is a Washington Commander-centric podcast. And there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of questions that come in the offseason. Personally, I think that Ron Rivera is done at the end of the season. I think he will be shown the door on day one. I personally think this might be something that was negotiated even before the season started. And do we have Martin back? Are you?
Yes, I am.
All right. Just to kind of
salute, TJ. How you doing?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Basically, what I was talking about before you came back in is my thought that Ron Rivera will be shown the door on day one of the offseason. And I think this may have been something that was negotiated even before the season started.
I don't want to pronounce your name, Shidra. If that's correct, then thank you.
Nita, welcome.
Yes, good. And she said, "Good luck." Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I do believe. I think that a lot of us thought that Ron would go get fired on Friday or Monday, but like you were saying before, it could have been Ron Rivera. I think it was more than both of him. I think it was his. I think this is how I view it. I think Ron Rivera knew he was going to probably end up getting fired either Friday or Monday. And I think what he did, he beat Josh Harris to the punch of saying, hey, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to have to let these guys go. I think he had to fire or talk to Josh Harris about firing Jack Del Rio and the defensive backs coach, because if he didn't, I think it would have been looking like today with this Carolina Panthers situation.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes you just have to, and I think Josh and Ron. I myself, I disagree with you there. I think Ron's job was safe through the end of the season, regardless. Josh has always been a man of his word, and he said, "I'm not going to make that change."
Yeah, I mean,
but firing Jack Del Rio, who was going to be gone at the end of the season anyway. He knew he was going to be gone at the end of the season anyway. It's like, hey, take the rest of the season off, buddy. Go play some golf, go drink a beer, or whatever it is you do there. But I'll take it from here. And I don't think Jack was even the slightest bit upset that it happened either.
No, I don't think so either. And this is where a lot of reports have stated that, hey, Josh Harris was going to allow him to stay with them. The goal was for all of them to have 1 year, but I don't think Josh Harris visioned that this team was going to perform this bad throughout the season. So, and now that I feel like at this point in time in the juncture, Ron is going to be there to the end of the season. He knows his time off. The thing about it now is how Eric Bieniemy and the offense is going to be able to perform if Ron Rivera goes in there and the defense plays a little bit better, not giving up so much points. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I mean, to be honest with you, the thing is the growth of the offense. That's the main thing that has to be looked at now. We already know the defense is pretty much busted, but the growth of the offense probably has to be the most important thing that we have to look at, because if Eric Bieniemy wants to continue his stay in Washington, he's going to have to figure out some things that's going to be able to alleviate a lot of pressure off of Sam Howell. I mean, throwing 642 times in the game is just not going. It's not going to get you. Because teams is going to play a certain different way, especially if they know you're a pass heavy team.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question too, because this came up too, and I was listening to John Klein because it came on his report, and there was rumors about either Jack the Real, Eric Bieniemy, and players. They was arguing back and forth, and John Allen had to step in. And John Klein also indicated that some of the players went to Ron Rivera and said that they wanted him to take some power away from Eric Bieniemy and everything like that. They didn't want him to be the interim coach if Ron Rivera had got fired this week. So my thing, what do you make of all of that? And do you feel like, I know Eric B's style is different and he's hard nosed, he's tough, but you got to think some of these players need that, and if you kind of like, I don't know, we heard it in training camp in the beginning. We heard it in the training camp. So look at how the season go, especially Jahan. His play is totally different from what it was. Terry's different. Do you feel like guys like Terry, like Tonio Gibson, or guys like that, or going to Ron Rivera and say, hey, can you get him to lighten up a little bit and stuff like that? Because my thing is, if we get a brand new coach, GM, and they be just as tough as Eric Bieniemy, what are y'all guys going to do? That's the.
You know what? There's been a lot of talk this last year, and the buzzword culture change has been thrown about an awful lot when it comes to the Commanders.
Yeah.
About how we're expecting a culture change. And that's what Magic is talking about. And Josh Harris was talking about it. And the players started talking about it. But here's the thing. You're not going to change the culture as long as if you're not changing anything. Right? And there's some hard realities that people are going to have to face.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes because somebody has been here so long and they are part of the only way you fix it is to remove the player or players. And this is why I've said this before. I've been saying this last year, and I've been saying it earlier this season, and I'm going to say it again. I really 100% believe that in order to achieve a culture change, that you're going to have to get rid of the current culture. And by doing that, you're going to have to get rid of everybody. You're going to get rid of the front office. You're going to have to get rid of the coaching staff, and you're going to have to get rid of most of the players.
It's funny you said that, because we had last year when we was talking about it, I thought you was crazy. I thought you was crazy. And trust me, we had this talk because we talked about free agent. And I remember you saying this because I think Herman Gray was on the panel at that time too. And you say, Martin, we have to script this place from the bottom to the top. And I was sitting here thinking, I was like, that don't make sense. I was like, why? I said, we still got decent players. But then coming into the season,
they're crying about now.
And I was like,
both can be wrong here, right? So the players can be wrong for crying about Eric Bieniemy, but at the same time, Eric Bieniemy can be wrong as well, because here's something about management, whether it's on the football field or whether it's in business. A good manager needs to understand how to manage his or her team.
Mm-hmm.
And if their message is not being heard, then that's on that manager. And whether that's an offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders or whether that's a market executive for Bank of America. And I think that I'm not entirely sold on Eric Bieniemy as a head coach. And there's that.
Man, go ahead, keep going.
He may have already been. How many jobs did he interview for last year or over the last couple of years? He's interviewed for over half the league, and over half the league has passed on him as head coach already. Again, he's also a Dan Snyder hire, so he's part of the Dan Snyder culture. So here's the thing. I'm not saying that Eric Bieniemy should not be a head coach. I just think I like Eric Bieniemy as a head coach of the Carolina Panthers more than I like him as the head coach of the Washington Commanders.
Wait, you say you like Eric Bieniemy
as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers? Yes.
Wow, he would get a
complete fresh start, and I think his type of thing would play here in Charlotte. But this is a Washington Commanders focus. That's where I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay, so I had this conversation over the weekend with a few people.
All right.
And that I had a lot of reservations, and then I saw a lot of people, a lot of content creators that I follow on Twitter also, and I told people. Matter of fact, me and my sister was talking about this. Me and her, because she's a Dallas Cowboys fan, her and her husband. So we talk football a lot. We talk about a lot of things, and we are very open minded, even though they're Cowboy fans. But we very open minded about both teams, and and they always get my opinion on certain stuff. So I just told them, my sister was like, "Dang!" I told her, I said, "Yeah, y'all beat us to death on Thanksgiving." She said, I can't believe it." And I told her, I said, "Well, it's like this." I said, "It's time for the clean house." I said, it's going to be a clean sweep, just like in baseball. You know what I'm saying? A sweep. And she said, "Why?" I said, every enemy, his goal was to come in and should have shown what he could really do without being under Andy Reid's tutelage. I said, there's some ups and some downs, but I think there's been more downs. And then now it comes about with bad football play, not just on the offense, on the defense as well. And I say they are not going to survive. I say now Eric B could get a job somewhere else. I say maybe he will, maybe he won't. But at the end of the day, I can't sit there and say, well, he didn't get a fair shot. He got a fair shot. I say if it wasn't for Andy Reid and Ron Rivera friendship, he probably wouldn't even got there. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing you have to look at it. So if they wasn't friends, he would still been in Kansas City. So
or
he was not even
had to leave Kansas City. We don't know
exactly. So he wasn't even my first choice as offense coordinator. He was in my top 3. I had Brian Schottenheimer, and I had Joe Brady on mine. You know what I'm saying? Those was my top 2 choices. And I felt like they was young, they both was young, still had some experience, but it didn't happen that way. Then, so I was like, well, Graham Roman was on that list. I wanted Steve Wilkes to be the defensive coordinator for our team, but he ended up going to the 49ers. You can see how that looked. So, I don't think they're. I'm at the mindset where I believe players will not be on this team. Some players will not be on this team. I won't be surprised if some of our top salary guys be dangling as trade bait around the trade deadline or around draft night to get more capital. I think this is going to be a very young franchise to start off with to grow to something beautiful. I think by me watching how Josh Harris did with other teams and what Magic them did with the Dodgers and stuff, I'm a firm believer how they could build a franchise.
Yeah,
I
and now we got to remember here, since you brought this up, Martin, is that from the time that the Guggenheim Group, which Magic Johnson is a part of, bought the Los Angeles Dodgers until they won their first championship was 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something, folks, that you have to understand. You can't change a culture just by saying you're going to change a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that requires a whole lot of heavy work and a lot of change. And a lot of change is what we're going to see.
Yeah.
First thing that's going to happen is that Josh Harris is going to hire a general manager.
Mm-hmm.
That general manager, I hope to God's name, is not Louis Riddick. And for three reasons. Number one, he's been out of football. He's been basically part of the media since 2013.
Mm-hmm. I want to pause in real quick. This is not football, but this is baseball. Yeah. I do believe. Don't be surprised that the Atlanta Braves make a play for Shitani.
Really?
Don't be surprised.
I would not be surprised.
They already had bolstered their pitching this all season. That was their Achilles heel this season.
Yeah.
Despite
also don't be surprised if Steve Cohen ends up striking a big enough check.
Yeah, that's true.
Get Yamamoto too, but we will see.
So yeah. So anyway, that's my point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's an interesting one, my friend. We'll need to talk about this.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But getting back, I think that Louis Riddick, it would be a bad choice for a number of reasons. One, he's been out of the front office for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is that he's a Dan Snyder hire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a Dan Snyder hire. You want a culture change. This is how you change the culture. You change the people.
Exactly.
And now, as far as Sam Howell and you want to keep Eric Bieniemy, no, you don't have to. For those people watching that are here locally that have seen Sam Howell and know Sam Howell's a smart kid. Sam Howell is, first of all, used to a pro system. UNC has been running a pro offense for the whole time that Mac Brown's been there. And Sam's dad Duke Howell was running a pro style offense, if I remember, at Sun Valley when Sam Howell was the quarterback there. So he's used to it. He's a smart kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he has that uncanny ability to hit the open receiver, even though he only has 2.5 seconds to do it. And very few quarterbacks can do it. He's an offensive coordinator's dream, right? Any general manager, what he's going to say is, and this is going to be part of the sales pitch that Josh Harris is going to get for every GM. I'm going to put together a team that's going to maximize Sam Howell's chance for success.
Exactly.
Because although we may, as a fan base, horribly underrate him, thankfully, the rest of the world is starting to catch on. And they're leveling some pretty high praise nationally at Sam Howell. And I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see whoever, and when it funnels down to whoever's going to be running the or calling the plays or designing the plays that are going to be called next year, they are going to be designed and written to ensure Sam Howell's chance for success. They are going to be written with him in mind. And I think what's going to happen, if you're smart, you're going to build an offense around that.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because that's what, if you notice, this is where somebody's going to go in there, because everybody, I read everything on Twitter. I don't comment a lot of it. I just stay away from some of it, because they was like, oh, well, if this person falls this way, or if this person falls this way, we should take everybody thinks we should take a quarterback. I mean, I say, yeah, in the later rounds, not now, not in the first round, when the biggest need is offensive line.
We don't need to take a quarterback.
My thing, they was like, well, what if Marvin Harrison Jr. falls? Okay, if he falls, but that if you need an offensive line, now, if you could trade out of there and get multiple picks and could trade back up in the draft, that's fine. But you're going to have to minimize, the biggest need of this team is the offensive line. Offensive line, linebacker, and tight end. Now, I'm tell you this. If Brock Bowers falls to us, we need a legit tight end. I
don't see Logan Thomas. I don't see Logan Thomas on this roster next year.
No, I can tell you this. Now I listened to somebody made a case for Curtis Samuels, because Curtis, they said, the guy from Locked On Commanders. I forgot. I listened to him. He made a case. He said that he could see all four of the wide receivers sticking around. Now, I can see that, and because Curtis Samuel has, if you think about it, he's been the most productive wide receiver because he is a deep threat. I don't know, because the contract situation, you have to sign him back. So there's a lot of variables. This is my take. I say that Gibson, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuels, I think they will be gone. I think there could be trade talks for Terry. I think there could be trade talks for John Allen or Deron Payne. I'm because I'm not out the ramification and say, oh, we shouldn't trade them. I think everything is on the table. And I think this team, Josh Harrison is going to bring it down, get as much draft capital that they can, add a sprinkle of free agent players here and there, but not oversert the cap space. And they're gonna bring some new blood in there. I think the main thing they will address is the offensive line. That definitely will be the biggest need in this draft. Drafting the offensive line, because you want to make sure Sam Howell has he's upright at all times. He could survey the field, and then he can make the plays when he need to. Because having one of the best offensive line in the game, then you know for a fact that this quarterback is going to be able to make the plays. He's gutty, he's gritty, he's tough as nails, and you want him to last. You don't want him to be just getting banged up game after game after game, and then all of a sudden. And me personally, this is what I look at it. We got what? We don't play 5 games already. I mean, we got 4 games left now.
Yeah, so we Miami, and then we get the bye week, and then
we got the Jets. We got the Jets, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Cowboys. So we got 5 games left.
We could win one of those games.
I don't want us to win none. But this is where I'm going to I say after the bye week, allow Sam Howell to play probably 2 more games. Shut him down for the rest of the season. Let Jacoby Brissett finish the last 2 games of the season. Because because the thing about it is we already know what Sam Howell is. We don't want to risk him playing the whole season and just get hurt. And then we be in a heck of a predicament. I'll say this Miami game, after the bye week, he played against the Jets and the Rams. After that, shutting down for the season, let Jacoby Brissett play the rest of the 2 games, and then allow Sam Howell to sit back and kind of like watch from a distance a little bit, you know what I'm saying, just to learn a little bit more. And then where he could go into, I know he's going to want to play, but you got to do the right thing by him, because especially if he's going to be our franchise quarterback going forward, you don't want to risk too much of his, because you got to think the 49ers going to be looking, they're going to be looking to take our head off. You don't want Sam Howell to be back there getting his head knocked off with Chase looking hungry, Bosa and all of them like that. I don't want.
You know what? That's what they're paid to do, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's what they're paid to do. I think we sometimes can tend to get a little bit like, oh, we can't let them get hurt. Well, something. Sometimes that might be the right course of action. Sometimes it's not. It's not like in baseball where those extra innings you could risk injury just by throwing an extra couple of starts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think that's the right thing. I mean, this is, making it through an entire season.
Yeah.
And the other thing is remember that you're getting reps. You're seeing teams, because now there'll be certain teams that he's finally will be starting to see twice.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for him because it's, unlike baseball where you play everybody every year now and you play some teams 12 times, you may not play everybody every year. I mean, you don't play everybody every year. And I mean, you're not seeing people as much. But all that being said, I see Terry McLaurin going. And I see Terry McLaurin going for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think we overpaid him to begin with. I think we overpaid him because that's the only reason we could have kept him. And at that point, we shouldn't have been thinking about keeping him. We needed that cap space for an offensive lineman. And because we did that, we weren't able to do that. I think we should have let McLaurin go. At this point, I think we've got him under control for 2 more years after this season. I think if you trade him to somebody like Detroit, because I think he would slide in as a good wide receiver too there. He is not a wide receiver one.
I don't. I look at. Honestly, I look at Denver. Denver could use him with Russell Wilson. There's teams I don't want. I mean, it's not really matter if he's in the NFC anyway. It don't really matter.
But anyway, but the thing is, right?
What you think you could get for him?
What?
What you think you could get for him?
I think we could get a 3rd round. I think we get a 3rd round pick for him. And you
don't think a late second won't work?
No, I mean, I think there's because the thing is, because he's a wide receiver. I mean, there are too many wide receivers. There's always a bunch of great wide receivers in every draft.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't value wide receivers as high as I may value a defensive end or a linebacker, or especially a linebacker.
Yeah.
But I think the other reason we don't need him is because Sam Howell is one of those quarterbacks that can go through his progressions and he can find the open receiver and will routinely connect with 9 and 10 receivers a game, which is not very common in the NFL today, especially on teams that have like an Antonio Brown or a Amon-Ra.
Because you think about it, there's a good bit of wide receivers coming out the draft anyway.
Yeah, there's a good bit of wide receivers coming out of the draft every season, which was the other reason why we didn't need to pay Terry McLaurin that kind of money. It's just I like the guy, I really do, but that was a dumb Dan Snyder signing. We giving Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen that kind of money. That was smart moves, right?
Yeah.
But giving McLaurin that kind of money, no. And I think if we can get a third round pick, because you can get a really good wide receiver in the third round. You can also get another really good.
Well, remember Terry was a third round pick for us.
Yeah. And the thing is, we've got Dotson, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got Samuel, and then Brown. As Brown continues to get more acclimated, and if he gets more looks, he's got that history with Sam Howell already. And I think if you bring in an offensive coordinator that can draw up the right plays for Sam and for Brian Robertson, because one player that I'm not going to trade is number 8.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the last couple of weeks, that kid is showing me something.
Yep.
And I mean, I think the fact that he's also one of Sam Howell's top targets.
Oh yeah, he is. He definitely is.
Somebody like that, having your number one option at halfback, being able to catch a pass and then do something after it. That's a nice thing. So yeah, I keep our running back, keep our quarterback, definitely keep Tressway. I don't know what I think about our kicker. He can kick a 61-yard field goal, but he can't.
He definitely has to go. He definitely has to go.
But he kicked a 61-yard field goal. Can you believe that?
Oh, we yeah. Oh, we're gonna be on Hard Knocks this week with the Miami Dolphins in season. Brian Robinson just, I'm friends with him on Facebook, so he just posted. He said that we're going to be on Hard Knocks next week with the Miami Dolphins in town. Better show up, show out, and smile for the cameras. Talking to the fan base, not the team. Yeah. We know what they fitting to do. he said they laughing emoji. So yeah. Not Brian Robinson. Real Robinson posted that on his Facebook. So yeah. Cool. So that's pretty good. But
you know what? I'm going to watch the game. I'm hoping for some good plays, and on any given Sunday something can happen.
Well, I'm gonna watch regardless, because that is my addiction. I have to watch my team.
This is what we do. I mean, we have to. We have to show our support.
Yeah, no matter how upset we get or how we don't like certain things, but I mean, I'm never gonna stop. Trust me, I'm going through it right now with the Bulls. So I'm hey, I'm learning to live with it. I've been through this before, with the Bulls back in the early 2000s before they got Derrick Rose. I'm going through it again. So it's not nothing that surprising to me. But at the end of the day, I just think that a lot of people, I think I've been more realistic about this team, not having so much expectations, just wanting to keep Sam Howell intact and build around him. Once we could build around him and get the general weapons, like you could always run zone sweeps and stuff, and sometimes wide receiver screens. But what I saw what Joe Brady did with what he did with Josh Allen by using a running back out on a wheel route, on a real route, and had that big play down the sideline. I like stuff like that. I like how you use everybody, because you don't have a chance not to stay basic, and I think that's something Eric Bieniemy will have to learn how to do. He's going to have to use Sam throws to everybody, but you need, I think, having a real good true tight end that could open up the middle of the field, like how they did in Kansas City and how like Tom Brady had with Gronk and and all of them guys and like Kittles, how they use Kittles over there. But it just in San Francisco, you just have to have that other element of this offense. And I think once Sam Howell get this offense built around him and get a true tight end, I think the wide receivers is going to be able to do more than what they have done this year. I know
Well,
this.
it's simple math, man.
Yeah.
You give Sam Howell another second, a whole other second for receivers to get open. And I mean, look at what he's doing now. And for all the naysayers, you have to understand that he's seeing more pressure than any other quarterback. In order to get sacked more than any other quarterback, you got to see more pressure first. And the fact is that his percentage of, getting the receivers in less than 2.5 seconds, he's starting to get into territory that only one or two other quarterbacks have ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one that comes to my mind is a quarterback that actually used to play for the Miami Dolphins.
Talking about Dan Marino?
We don't speak of his name because he caused me to get my ass whooped by my dad when I was a little kid for betting. It was the Fiesta Bowl between Pitt and Notre Dame. This is why I'm a Notre Dame fan to this day.
Okay.
Is I bet some kid in class, I'm in the 4th grade, that Pitt was going to whip Notre Dame's ass. That was Dan Marino was the senior quarterback, and I think he threw like 3 interceptions in the second half. I lost $1. My dad found out I bet. He banked me something fierce, and I have hated Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins ever since.
Oh, wow. So with that being said, I know we're about to wrap up in about 3 minutes. I feel like right now is that these next couple of games are so crucial. They're very, very crucial right now. And just to see how things could transpire as these next 5 games go down to the wire, especially with draft position. So that's what I'm kind of like mainly paying attention to. Continue to see the growth of Sam Howell. I'm not so worried about the defense because I don't think half of them guys are going to be on the team anyway next year.
This is one of the things I'm asking Santa for. I'm asking Santa for like 18 new starters.
Yeah.
Next season. But you know what? And this is what I would say to the fan base that's watching. And, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and like and all that. It helps out the algorithm and helps us to do more with the channel. So please do that. And at the same time, I would say, look, watch these next few games, understanding we're not going to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that we do not have a coaching staff and a team that are on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not going to play as well as we would like. But I think these guys are trying. And I think Sam Howell is going to turn into a fantastic quarterback. And if you realize that we're going to get a new GM, and Josh Harris has already shown that he's not the type of owner that he's going to meddle in a GM's affairs, we're going to get a good GM, folks.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I feel strongly about that. I also, it's amazing, the last touch up on Sam Howell before we close, is that through all this adversity through the season, he managed to come to be the league's leading passer.
Yeah. And think about what he could do if he had an offensive line. It's amazing. But before we're done, folks, and well, two things. First of all, a piece of good news. Happy birthday, Coach Joe Gibbs. He's 83 years young today.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. I heard some people say that they want him as a general manager. No, he's done.
Yeah.
You know, sadly, especially after we lost his son.
I think Joe Gibbs should get a statue.
He should. I mean, but the thing is, he's enjoying retirement out here. He's a little closer to Lake Norman than I am, but he's enjoying his days in the sun, and I hope quite a few left, and I hope he doesn't have to work again. On another note, today on this date in 2007, we lost
Sean Taylor,
greatest defensive player that we've seen this century. Definitely the best overall player we've had on this team in at least the past 25 years, if not the last 30.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
If he was cut down tragically, and I mean, I still remember when it happened. It shouldn't have happened. There were a lot of things. I don't want to get into it because Lord knows that's going to take the show in a direction that I don't want to take it in. But sadly, the conditions that caused us to lose Sean Taylor have not changed. And they won't change until people start to wake up and say that there's got to be a different path and a different way. You know, it's, you know, the Washington Redskins lost their best defensive player. Although they moved forward. In fact, the following Sunday, they played shorthanded against the Buffalo Bills and beat them. I mean, it's just like you think about it, it makes it a tear in your eyes. But, you know, the conditions that caused us to lose Sean Taylor haven't really changed, have they? And they need to. So before we go, I want to have a little bit of a moment of silence for Sean. But I don't want to just have a moment of silence for Sean. I want to have a moment of silence for everyone we've lost to violence since then. Because every one of them have been senseless. And it needs to stop. Everybody, if you could please join me in a minute of silence. I'm not sure if that was exactly a minute, if it was a little short, sorry. But Sean Taylor, may you rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
I wish all the best for his family. But please, everybody that still wears his jersey or supports him, go back into your community and try to do your part to make sure that these things don't happen again. We do not need to lose any more of our brothers and sisters, any more of our sons and daughters or mothers and fathers. Too many of us have been lost. Too many people I know.
Exactly.
It has to end. But then on the other side of it, I've seen so many reasons to have hope. And I think going into this Christmas season, I think that's what I'm gonna hold on to. And knowing that we're going to get a new general manager here, we're going to get a new coaching staff, and that next year, after the New York Mets win the World Series, we'll be able to follow with the Washington Commanders championship. What do you say, Martin?
All right, sounds good with me. So, with that being said, that concludes the night of another Washington Commanders, the aftermath. We only have 5 weeks left, including a bye week. There's going to be a lot of football to talk, a lot of things about the draft, a lot of things about the offseason that we going to be discussing, especially, now we have new ownership in place. There will be most definitely a new GM, a new head coach, a new offensive and defensive staff, new players. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. So to stay with us throughout every Monday between either 7 or 8 o'clock, we will bring you the latest. You can always still find me on YouTube, Livewire Sports Media. Most likely, sometimes I will drop videos there, talking about some of the stuff that may just come and we don't have time to put it in a whole hour of networking, podcasting. But like I said, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on my Facebook group, Live Wire Sports Media. And my co-host Merle, tell them where they can find you at.
Well, first of all, you can find me right here every Monday night, sometime between 7 and 8 o'clock Eastern time, talking about the Washington Commanders right here on Washington Commanders, The Aftermath. And then you can also catch me over on YouTube with my show Between Two Guitars, where we're working on becoming YouTube's new home for all things rock and roll. Watch out for my year-end special where I count down the top 11 new rock albums of the year, because, hey, we go up to 11 here. Where will Metallica end up with their new album, 72 Seasons? Spoiler alert, it's pretty high.
Yeah. So, guys, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our show for tonight. Be here next Monday, because you never know what might be popping off. So it's the Commanders. There's never a story that's boring for us. Until then, God bless. Good night.
Peace.